Hits and Crits. This video is brought to you by Asmodee.
What is up, YouTube? Welcome to another deep dive video. Today, neutrals in Season 7. And I have none other here than Ole Honeybadger. Ole, what's up?
Yeah, hey, happy to be here, and I'm absolutely excited for the patch.
Same here, man. I can't wait. Let's see what we're going to talk about today. We have a bit of stuff to cover. We're going to talk about where the faction comes from, give some context for these changes. We'll talk about the NCUs and the combats units that have gotten changes, and we're going to end with the big picture and, of course, some lists for you to try out at the beginning of Season 7 to dive right in and try all the new stuff. Okay, so first question, where does the faction come from? Ole, what about neutrals?
Yeah, we have to keep in mind that the neutrals are a many faction, and so cmon has to be careful, I guess, to make them not too strong.
Mhm.
But usually the faction is at the bottom of the ranking and stats, and so the changes of the faction always indirectly affects the other factions.
Yeah, absolutely. So changing something or making something really, really strong in neutrals will lead to everybody just taking that in their factions and push away all the in-house units and stuff like that. So it's kind of difficult to balance a faction like that. And that's why, it's always a bit difficult to play with them sometimes. But yeah, they're so fun, and they've gotten some really cool changes right now. So what we're doing here is we're going to look at what do the changes in Season 7 mean for the faction itself, so for neutrals as a faction. But of course, also we're going to look at how does this affect list building or synergies in other factions. It's a few changes, it's not too many. So we're going to go over this in a decent manner, I think. Let's see what the NCU changes bring. First up, Lord Varys, the Spider. So what has changed? What is new here, Ole?
Yeah, it's a small change. So his costs increased to 5 points instead of 4, but he got an extra token to put out one of his effects.
Yeah, and the effects stayed the same. So it's really only that extra token, but another point cost. And we talked about it before. It doesn't seem like much, just 1 point. But I think with NCUs, where you're usually, often you put 3 NCUs in, 4-point NCUs is 12 points. So that extra point sometimes is really hard to put into a list. And Varys was a really good pick, very flexible, kind of a Swiss Army knife unit. And he was picked a lot, right?
Yeah. And now you have to think about the extra point for him to put him in your army, but for the neutrals himself, where you have fewer options, he's a very strong pick still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Okay, so that's it for Varys already. Let's move on to
Yes.
Walder Frey. Now, this is the first big change, I feel, that has a lot of repercussions. Can you tell us what he does now, Ole?
Yeah, he's completely reworked and is now an influence. So you can now influencing a friendly combat unit, which gains +1 movement and can pivot at the start of its activation. So it's
Mm-hmm.
before you done any action.
That's
Or
crazy.
you can, yeah, of course. And then the other effect is you can also influencing an enemy combat unit, which suffers -1 on their movement and cannot pivot at the end of a maneuver or a march action.
Great. Yeah, I like how it mirrors this in the negative effect and the positive effect is just mirrored. So it's kind of cool mechanic wise, but it's something that we haven't seen that much in the game, and especially on a neutral NCU that again everybody can put in their lists. He costs 5 points, so he's not that cheap. But mobility is king in A Song of Ice and Fire. At least it's one of the big things that can make or break a game or a match. So I think it's really, really cool to have this. As a Targaryen player, I don't like seeing this because obviously with Cav heavy lists and the mobility faction in Targaryens and, ride by attack, going through a unit or a dragon flying through a unit and then just turning around and you're behind enemy lines. And what happens is they cannot just turn around. They cannot just pivot. Most infantry would have to just spend their next activation to just simply pivot, and they cannot attack you back. And you, again, have the chance to move and then attack in the flank. This, if your opponent has Walder Frey, and it becomes really, really risky or something that you just don't do as a Targaryen player or a player with high mobility who tries to hide in, just outside the line of sight arc. It's really, really dangerous. And I think he's going to change tournaments a lot, right?
Yeah, of course. For the other side, I play mainly a Lannister, and if I could expose my crossbows, so my ranged unit, and can, before I shoot on my enemy, can pivot, and yeah, then the other or the enemy cannot get out of my line of sight and feel safe. It's very amazing.
No, don't
So
do that. I want to hide outside your line of sight on your crossbows. Don't shoot my dragon, please. Okay.
yeah, it's possible
Uh,
now.
yeah. But it's great for factions who are infantry heavy and who are just, I see Baratheons, Greyjoys, Lannisters. Those were kind of the matchups that I, as a Tark player, liked because I could outmaneuver them easily, and now they will make it much more difficult. So interesting change, powerful, and also a very meaningful change, not just for neutrals but for everybody. Of course, Walder is great in neutrals as well. To put him in there, and we have to, at this point maybe say that neutrals, you cannot put an infinite amount of neutrals into your faction, obviously. So it's limited, but for neutrals it's not, right? They can put all these cool NCUs in without limitation. Of
Yeah,
course.
of course.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next slide here. We have some examples of how Walder Frey can be used. You already talked about crossbows, so that's kind of clear. But how about Arya?
Yeah, it's already the Starks are a movement faction, and Walder Frey would synergy with all of them. You have Arya, which gives you some maneuver or retreat actions, and with Walder you also get the +1 on your maneuver. And if you see on Robb Stark, he has the enhanced mobility, which gains a unit also +1 on their maneuver and may pivot for marching. So you could get +2 on your movement, or you can got another infantry unit and get the same on him with enhanced mobility. So the Starks are now very, very mobility faction with him.
Yeah. Okay, great. So with Robb, with the dervishes, right? That's a classic list that we've seen played a lot last season. And there you would have, so they have a base speed of 6 +1 through Robb's card, Robb's commander attachment card, and plus another one to Walder. So it's 8 movement speed. So that's a 16-inch march that an infantry unit would get. That's scary. So yeah, interesting. And as you said, 2 units could have a +1, plus the pivot possibility. So that's really scary too, having 2 units basically do this in Starks. All right, there's more examples, of course, but we can't go into all the details here. And some of the fun is, of course, to become creative as a player and make their own combinations and lists. But I think this is a good starting point. Okay, let's look at our next NCU, Jaqen H'ghar, follower of the Red God. And boy, is that a change? What is going on?
Yeah, it's the next strong NCU from the neutral faction. Jaqen is a little bit new, but a little bit old. He now has 3 order tokens, and each time he activates, he can remove 1 order token from him and target another NCU, and then he gains the abilities from that NCU until end of round.
Ooh.
Here's important that he may not use once per game effects, and if he copy abilities required order tokens, they must be spent from this card. So if he use an aria token, he has to remove 2 tokens from himself.
Yeah, so he has to remove 1 token from that Arya would need to spend on her own ability, and then another one because he's copying it. So that's important to keep in mind. And it seems to make it a little weaker and less strong. He only has 3 tokens. For some things he would need to spend an extra token because of what you explained. But still, this is really, really strong, I think. For once, he can not only copy influence as he did before in his old card in last season, but he can copy all effects except for once per game. So now he can copy every single NCU in the game, at least most of their effects, and that is extremely strong because we have some really, really powerful NCUs in this game. And if you think about competitive lists and tourneys where people bring the strongest NCUs, he will always find something worthy to copy. And another point is that a lot of NCUs have gotten buffed this season. We've seen quite a few buffs, so even more reason to take him and just start copying away. And it's not just you. I mean, you have a game plan with your list, so you will definitely bring a strong NCU that he can copy, but it's also your opponent's NCUs that you can copy. And someone bringing Olenna in Baratheons and saying, haha, I can turn off your NCU's abilities, and you go, yeah, I have Jaqen, I can do the same. Thank you for bringing her. That's kind of mean, but fun, at least for the person bringing Jaqen.
It's like the Spider-Man meme where everyone point on the other. It's like I have Jaqen, your Olenna is now blank, and the other one I have Olenna, your Jaqen now is blank. So it's every round the same.
Exactly.
For at least 3 rounds because he just have 3 order tokens. Yeah, but there are a lot of other powerful NCUs, like you said.
Let's look at those. So we've
Yeah.
put some together. Olenna we already talked about.
Yeah,
but we've
Olenna we already did. Yeah, I have as Lannister player Cersei here, which also is an influence effect, but not get targeted by friendly orders or tactic cards is also very powerful. So as Lannister, I wouldn't like get the influence back on my units. So Jaqen is very hard. Yeah, then the example with Arya. So you can use Arya 3 times or 2 times in a round. So also very, very strong and very powerful. Again, mobility is here the key. And then it's a lot of examples. So we just picked 4. We have also Vendemir here. Vendemir could use him in round 1 to get 2 order tokens on himself because he himself goes on its zone and claims it to get an order token, and then Jaqen activated, put 1 order token of himself away, goes on his zone and put another order token on Vendemir. So
so basically you can
very good
kind of
because you have in the
transport
late
one.
game the and so but there are a lot of other NCUs which you can copy. So I think the players now have to find out which is possible, which is the powerful. So I think he is a lot seen in the next time.
Oh yeah. And the fun thing here is, of course, again, player creativity, right? You can try out these combinations. You can figure out what lists to build and where you can copy what. And then, if you have high skill, and you know all the other NCUs in the game, and you're in a game and someone brings something, you can totally surprise them by going, well, I can copy this and then I do this and then I have, I can play Arya Stark stuff twice in a round, and I completely change the game state. Yeah, that the state of the board can completely change if you can move 2 units like that in one round. So really, really fun, but also a bit dangerous maybe about, the power level that can happen here. And maybe even some stuff that is a bit game breaking or not worded in a way that considers all these options, because there are a lot. So I'm excited to see what people can do with Jaqen and if it breaks some things in the game.
Of
All
course.
right. Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about NCUs a lot, but I think this is really, really exciting in neutrals. So we found out some cool stuff here, but now let's talk about combat units. There were 3 NCUs changed and also 3 combat units changed. So we will look at those. And first one up is the Hedge Knights. What happened here?
Yes. It's the smallest changed on the units or on the 3 units in the neutral units. The Hedge Knights got a better morale, so they now have a 6+, and they got 1 attack dice more on their 2nd rank. So it's a very small buff, but it's good for them to get playable in their faction, but I think they wouldn't seen in other factions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it doesn't really change how they play that much. There's still a light calf kind of, but it gives them a bit more power and a bit more sustain that they already have with their abilities. I think, like we talked about it before the video, I think some of their abilities are still a few patches behind in a way. That's my feeling, because a lot of the abilities have gotten changes, like making them less difficult to produce or to put into effect. Like you have to jump through some hoops here, right? While you control bags, while your opponent doesn't control bags, if you control swords, so on and so on. So it's all a bit conditional, and I think the game in the last 2 patches has gotten rid of some of these too conditional effects, and I think it's a good direction. And I think the Hedge Knights are lagging behind a little bit here.
Yeah, of course, because the cost of them are 7 points, and they are between the Bloody Mammoth skirmishes, the Sorcerizers and Sorcerizers and the Flayed
Flateman.
Men. So they have a problem between them. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to go defense and grindy and dish out some panic stuff, then you do Flateman. And if you want to have that alpha charge kind of damage potential, you do Zorse Riders. And they're kind of in between, which is cool, but maybe it's difficult to justify. But then, if you have 7 points left over instead of 8, then you cannot pick the Flateman and you pick the Hedge Knights. And if you have 7 points and not 6, you might pick them over Zorse Riders. I don't know, but I'm sure they have their place. And Sundering is great, I think, for a calf unit that's very mobile. So yeah, it's still a good choice. Definitely in neutrals. I think most of the factions have something similar, so they don't really need it. Okay.
Yeah, and in the opposite to other factions, the neutrals have 2 attachments for calf units.
Mm-hmm.
Which we have on our slide here. So they also fit perfectly to them, and yeah.
So if you want to, we just put the attachments there, so you know what works. But this worked before just as well.
Yes.
Okay. Let's look at the Golden Company's swordsmen. Now these guys were a bit OP a while ago and got hotfixed. Because they were too strong. So I think that this is one of the examples you talked about where balancing neutral units is a bit difficult, right?
Yeah, it was the problem with them. They were too strong for the neutral faction, so we saw this unit in the Starks, in the Tarks, and a lot of other factions use them. And now they got a decent buff, but not a too strong buff because their attack profile is a little bit better. They have now a 3+ armor and a 5+ morale, which gives them a little bit defense opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
The adapter style was before for one attack, so but now they're a little bit grindier, and yeah, they got an extra ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, and they also changed their attack profile a bit, right? They
Yeah,
have
true, true.
an
Yeah,
extra die on the second rank at least,
on
so
the
they
second rank. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So that's not bad. And the golden
yeah, of course.
reputation sounds nice. I think after an enemy completes a melee attack on this unit, that enemy does not have more remaining ranks than this unit. Target that enemy, it becomes panicked and vulnerable. So dishing out 2 tokens at the same time that have damage potential, panicked and vulnerable, is definitely nice for them.
Yeah, and
Uh,
there's small synergy inside the faction and their tactic decks
Give an
because
yeah.
planning and insight deals or blocks hits, so you could be safe to don't get less ranks than your enemy, or with the card worth the risk, you can heal after a completed morale check, so you can get a little bit safe to get out the tokens.
Oh yeah. All right. Great. And we have attachments here. We have Braun and 2 Darios. So one is the attachment, the one on the top is the attachment, and the one at the bottom is the
Yeah.
commander version. And we also put one of his tactics cards, sellsword negotiations there. Why don't you start with Dario Commander and sellsword negotiation? Why does it synergize with the Golden Company swordsman, the new ones?
Yes, the first effect is that they could gain Sundering with the bags, and which you can see here on Salesforce negotiations. That you
Negotiations, yeah.
negotiations that
That's
you
better.
can yeah, that's better, that you
You're
can
getting there.
control the back the bags, and could be safe that you have the bags, and you have also to keep in mind that you have Peter Baelish with which can say once per game that you have the bags, so you can very have consistency on the bag and have Sundering with them, and also always the highest attack value.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, which make them also to an aggressive
Oh yeah,
unit.
for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, and they have a 3+ defense, which makes them grindy and have sustain as well. So yeah, I like this combination. So putting them in Dario lists is definitely fun. But also you could instead use his attachment on them. Why
yeah,
is that helpful?
because you have always rerolls with him, and he has the ability Reckless Strike, so he gain critical blow and precision, and you
Hmm.
don't have to fear for the one on your attack die because you have rerolls, so you can attack with him and have crit blow and precision. And
Yeah.
also you have Dauntless with your now 5+ morale, you
Hmm.
could always heal a little bit.
Yeah, that's also great for them, I think. And they become, with him in there, they become even more aggressive or attack focused, but also have more sustain. So it works very well with how they have developed now into a more defensive, but also more dangerous unit. And then we
Yeah.
have Braun the sellsword, and I like when we put him in there on this slide, and I was a bit sad and reminded of putting Braun in ranged units back then. I loved playing him on these ranged units and shoot again second time, but it's not Braun anymore. So I'm even more happier to see him here now. So what can he
Yeah.
bring?
Now he can get your Golden Company Swordsman to a 2+ armor, and if you have Darian
Ooh,
Harris with as commander, you could use Bronn in your Golden Company Swordsman, and Peter Baelish as your NCU, and then you have a very, very sustained unit with a 2+ armor and a 4+ morale.
Awesome. And we're going to look at more Golden Company stuff because here it is. The elephant in the room. We've saved it for last. Okay, now the war elephant has been changed. It's been changed before a couple of times, but it never really took off because it wasn't enough. And I think the biggest weakness or limiting factor it had was too little mobility. And now this has been addressed. Ole, let's go.
Yeah, of course. At the first view, you see the movement. Now 5, not 6. But if you go into the war elephant rule, once during this unit activation before selecting its action, it may shift 5 inches directly forward. So
5.
yeah, so you could go straight up 15 with him, and also your charge is a little bit safer with the 5-inch directly. And then you have to keep in mind you always have Walder on your NCU bank, so it's on the same trigger, so you can pivot, then shift, and then can you do your action.
Yeah. So Walder really makes them very mobile and dangerous because, people could argue, well, okay, it's a shift, but still they can't turn, but then again, this is a couple of tons animal, and if that charges at you, it won't be able to make a turn on a dime or something. But with Walder, it can for some reason. And that's really dangerous and great for the elephants. And I know that a lot of neutral players on our Discord are already looking at this and they want to use the Golden Company War Elephant in their neutral lists.
Yes.
There's one thing, like the trampling stomp also changed a little bit. They lost the vicious though, which is a bit sad, and I think it was kind of thematic to have that, people being panicked and so on. But I think what is thematic again is a change to trampling stomp. When charging, gains +1 attack die for each of the defender's remaining ranks. So that makes sense that it does more damage if it runs into a full unit with just more bodies it can trample. So that's great.
The other important change is that the unit ignores all terrain penalties, so you can charge always above corpse piles or something. You're ignored. And the other point is that you don't have stay longer in long range of your friendly Golden Company infantry. So now you can move with your elephant behind or next to the enemy army, and then could charge them from its side or something, because you don't have to perform a morale test.
Yeah, and that's amazing, and really, now they can really be picked, at least in the neutral faction. I don't think we will see them too much in other factions because you always need to bring at least the Golden Company officer to put into one of your units. Or, of course, if you bring stuff like the Golden Company crossbows, then you have a Golden Company unit already. But if you don't, then you would need to put the Golden Company officer into something because he gives them the affiliation for Golden Company, which you need in order to bring one. So you can bring one War Elephant for each Golden Company infantry unit you have.
Yeah, the problem also is if you have the Golden Company crossbows, they are 7 points, and the elephant are 6 points. So you have 13 points.
Yeah, you can't.
It's too much. So you just have the opinion with the Golden Company officer, and he is in comparison to other attachments not so good. So I think the elephant is always in the neutral faction, but
and
not
that's
in the other
fine.
faction.
And that's fine.
I think it's fine.
Yeah. They should. I want them to have this. That's great. Yeah. And I was so excited about, maybe bringing one that I forgot that it's 13 points and you're over the 12-point neutral limit then.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's back to the Golden Company officer. All right. So we've talked about the NCUs. We've talked about the combat units. How can we summarize what this means for neutrals?
Yeah, as a first of all, the neutrals got a quite strong NCU changes, which give them a lot of new opinions with the NCUs.
Yeah, options.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and also the combat units which are changed, the Golden Company swordsmen, now they have a defense bunker for their commander or for other attachments. And
Yeah.
also the elephant has a very good offensive potential and is now very playable. So I think there could be a lot of new lists and
Yeah. Two elephant
yeah, of
lists
course.
coming.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, of course.
Well, let's look at lists that we have built for you guys to try out here at the end. And there it is. Two elephants. Ole.
Yeah, two elephants. Yeah.
Awesome.
Now you have the chance to play a viable or also competitive Golden Company list. So you can play the Golden Swordsman with Jaqen H'ghar as commander. We have the example on the slides before,
Yeah.
and then two elephants, then the Golden Company crossbow with Sandor with the
Always good.
threaten factor. Yeah, then the NCUs, Walder and Jaqen are auto include. Jaqen also can copy now every enemy NCU if you want. And Walder gives you the mobility or plus mobility on your elephants to charge through your enemies.
Yeah.
And then Tycho is your Iron Banker with could help one elephant if he got stuck somewhere.
Yeah. I get a Battle of Minas Tirith vibes here from Lord of the Rings,
Yeah,
where the elephants just charge through these orcs. Awesome.
Against your targets.
Yes. Again, no, please don't. We'll just run away. We'll just ride away.
Yeah.
Okay, great. This looks like such a fun list, and I really would like to try this out. And I can imagine that a lot of people will try something like this if they main neutrals for sure. This is so cool. Okay, another list. We have it's a bit more of a classic neutrals list with blackguards, right? Two blackguards and Ruse Commander. Can you talk us through this? How does this list, because it's a kind of a classic neutral list, how does it change now with the changes to NCUs and combat units?
Yeah, first of all, the units himself didn't change a lot because the blackguards are very sustained units and the flatemen, more sustained than the hedge knights, and there was no other space for the new units. And the or before I had I had Varus instead of Walder in this list, but Varus increased now to 5 points.
5 points,
So
too expensive.
yeah, of course. And now you have Walder to get a little bit mobility on your blackguards, which is very new for them. And yeah, Jaqen auto include and Peter to get the zone if you want. Can change the zone or get your once per game. So it looks like a valid list.
Yeah, looks fun. And and the other synergies stay. So basically the list didn't change much except for the NCUs, because we feel that Jaqen and Walder have just become really, really strong. And since you're not limited with neutral points in the neutral faction, you can just indulge and bring them all. All right.
Yeah.
Great. That's it for the video. And we've covered all of the neutral changes, and we've tried to look also at the implications for all the other factions that can pick neutrals. And I hope we were able to give you guys a little bit of a head start here at the beginning of Season 7. We both don't know yet how the meta will unfold. We're recording one day after the patch released. So we're also excited. Let us know in the comments below if you agree, if you disagree, if we missed something, or if there's anything that you can predict for the new meta for neutrals. Anything else to say, Ole? Are you still excited?
I'm very excited, yeah.
Okay, great. So I'll see you on the battlefields, Ole, and everybody else. I'll see you back here in the channel. Roll those crits.
Come for the hits and stay for the crits.